All right, here we are. Welcome back to the next part. Today we will be creating the molds, at least the first part of the molds for these two Clone Trooper helmets. So a few things that are different from last time. I did have to get a few more materials and I did do a few things since the last video. So you guys already saw, I guess you didn't see, but I had talked about making keys. So I'm literally just gonna fill in these little trays and they're gonna form little keys. I have pins to secure them when I add them. Today we're gonna be using the Rebound 25 parts A and B. Got a bunch of sturdy paint sticks so that I can mix the rebounds, do like a pre-mix before. I can also have different sticks for mixing the parts individually, and then a stick for mixing them together. I also snagged a few brushes, and all this is relatively cheap. The cups were about $2 each. I have the lines because I want to mix equal parts. The brushes were about $1 each. The sticks, all 10 for like $2. Not that expensive. I did get a die so that in between layers I can have different colors, so that I can tell where I've covered and where I haven't. So I grabbed a little cheap die for a few bucks. Safety gloves. You just use rubber gloves. These are kind of multi-purpose gloves that I use. So I have those. I covered my working space, which is my kitchen counter, with paper bags and taped them in place so they won't move. And last but not least, the helmet. So I kind of, I use cardboard and I just secured it right there. So the mold is when I dab it on. This will be more or less sealed, so I can do the mold. Same thing with the eyes, and the eyes right there. And I just use a tripod and a cone to kind of prop them up because I'm tall. I don't want to ruin my back. It is 8 o'clock in the morning and I'm expecting this process to take all day. So there'll be an initial layer, and then after the initial layer, you need to allow time for partial cure, which will be about an hour. A second layer with a partial cure of an hour. A third layer, all the way up to, I think, 5 or 6 layers, each with partial cures of an hour in between. And then after you finish making the silicone mold, with all the thinner layers and thicker layers, alternating with the colored and non-colored and whatnot, it's probably going to be an all-day thing. So after everything, then it'll be a full cure at about 6 hours, and that will probably be me finishing up all the layers and letting it sit overnight, and then tomorrow I will create the harder cast. Yeah, so these things and then Thivex are what I'm going to use today. So I'll do some time lapses and show you guys what I do. And yeah, so we'll get this started. I haven't done this before. This will be quite the process, but stay tuned and just enjoy me along this wonderful journey as we attempt to cast these two Clone Trooper helmets. Let's get to it. So as you can see here, I'm pre-mixing both of parts A and part B, and then pouring them into individual cups. After I pour them into their individual cups, I will stir them again, and after stirring, I'll mix them together in the bigger container. Make sure you mix it up thoroughly, get everything. Don't slack on stirring, or else the material won't work correctly. And then here you're going to dab on a thin first layer. With the bristles of the brush, you're going to kind of like dab it on all the spots of the helmet, and this will capture all the detail. So don't worry about adding thickness yet, just do a thin layer here. All right, here we are. We have applied the first layer. One thing off the bat that I can tell you that I would do differently if I were you. So once again, when I was pouring, so you probably saw it, when I was pouring, more will probably come out than what you think. It's really hard to pour out of those buckets into these little cups without dumping a lot more than you think. So I poured a lot more and then had to match it and then had to go back and even it out. And probably mixed up a little bit more than I needed. All the extra is right there. So not too much, but just something to keep in mind. Like I said, I have different mixing sticks. So I have a part A stick, a part B, and a AB stick. I actually marked all of them with Sharpie. And then mixed it up in there. I started with the phase 2, and with the first level, with the first layer, you don't have to go super thick. You just want to like dab it in and capture all that detail, and make sure you cover the entire helmet and all the crevices and low places and all that. From a glance, you can see that the phase 1 helmet looks a little bit thicker. That is because I did that second. So it takes like 15-20 minutes to apply to the entire helmet. And in that time, your mixture, if you're going from the same batch, has already partial cured 10, 15, 20 minutes of the time. And after the first layer, you're only supposed to let it partial cure an hour before doing the next layer. So here I am, and I just wrapped up the second one, but now I'm gonna start the second layer on the phase 2 helmet in just 30 minutes from now because that time's already elapsed. So it's less waiting time, but I don't know if it's gonna affect the phase 1, but it was definitely thicker. Hopefully it'll still capture all those details. But yeah, make sure the helmet's completely covered, and I'm letting it partially cure. And then I'll do a second layer. I'll probably add some dye and then just cover the entire helmet, and we'll keep going from there. But yeah, so the one tip is maybe do separate batches for different helmets. Do one helmet at a time. This is experimental. I'm wanting to do 2, and I'm going all out gung-ho and trying to do 2 at once. So that may affect the phase 1, we will see. But yeah, just a tip and what happened to me. So yeah, make sure to get all those low places, capture all that detail. And yeah, so that was the first layer. Let it partially cure in a total of 1 hour. Like I said, for the phase 2, that's only 30 minutes from now. And we'll get started on the next layer. Awesome. So the process here is going to be relatively the same. You're going to pour equal parts, make sure to stir them, and then mix them together. Once again, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of mixing it thoroughly. You can add a dye here to change the color a little bit so that as you apply the second layer, you can tell which parts you've covered and which ones you have not. So make sure to go over both helmets entirely with a second layer, making sure you cover all parts. All right, here we are. Second layer has been applied. As you can see, it's a little bit thicker. The dye didn't really work. Not too great, so it's okay. I mean, you don't need dye. It's just helpful in visualizing what you've done. But yes, next part, yeah, so not super great. But yes, next thing that we are going to do is I'm gonna mix some more, and I'm gonna pour some into here so that we can have our keys. And after I pour that, I'll let them cure do a partial cure for 2 hours. And in the meantime, while those are curing, I'm going to add some of the Thivix and thicken up some more of the rebound mixture, and I'm gonna apply it to these low points. So like under the brow and the cheeks, underneath the chin area, between those lines around the earpiece, in the indent right there, right here, along the fin, and a lot down there. And I'm just going to add that, and that will kind of be more supportive. It'll be kind of a thicker, harder mixture, and yeah, not much more to say. So let's get to it. So as you can see here, my mixing cup is kind of dirty, so I pull out all the residue. If you look at the Phase 2 helmet, there are little clumps here and there that are from mixing up a new concoction with some silicone that had already partially cured in the mixing cup. So it all sticks together, it comes out rather easily, but I did that because after the clumps would stick to the Phase 2 helmet, I didn't want to do that again. So yeah, just pour those keys. It's going to be at least 2 hours partial cure time before you use those. If you follow the steps, it's going to be more like 3.5. And in this step, you're just going to take that thickened layer and you're going to press it into all the low points, all the points that will need more support to capture the detail you want. So I am just doing that here to both those helmets. And after letting that thickened layer partial cure, I applied regular rebound to the rest of the helmet. Awesome, guys. So since the last step, I've put on 2 more layers. I put on a layer without the Thivex and another thickening layer with the Thivex. So it's also had its partial cure of 60 minutes for each layer. And now I will be applying the keys. So I have a handful of these. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna make another batch of thick Rebound 25 with the Thivex, and I'm gonna use these pins, and I'm gonna go and dab some in the spots that I want to put the keys. Then I'm gonna go place the keys along the center. I'm gonna put them like this with the larger part outwards, and they'll help with holding the hard cast to the outside. And I'll put a few more over here on these spots. So that's what I'm gonna do next. And I'll attach the time lapse so you guys can see how I do that. Awesome. So mix together the parts, mix in the Thivex, stir thoroughly. And if you have a second person that can help you with this step, that'll be great. Essentially, you just glue on those keys with the thickened rebound, and if you have someone that can help you insert the pin to hold them, that would be great. All right, here we are. I have used all of my Rebound 25. Both of those are open, and I'm calling it for, I guess I'm content with how they've turned out. So it is currently 8:22. The entire process took about 12 hours, and that was keeping all the partial cures to an hour 15. So you can do, I think, partial cures up to a little bit longer, maybe 2 hours, but as recommended by Smooth On, 60 minutes is the partial cure time, so I did it, and now 12 hours later, I just laid down the last coat. Like I said before, I attached the keys with the thickened rebound with the Thivex, and then afterwards I covered the entire helmet with a normal coat. And for the last coat, I used the rest of my blue dye. It turned the orange into a grayish purple, so that's gonna be the color of my mold. So now I'm gonna let these sit for 6 hours. Well, at this point, I'm gonna let them sit overnight because I don't wanna wake up at 2 a.m. to do anything with these. So I'm gonna let these sit overnight to fully cure. As you can see, it's quite the mess. So tomorrow's gonna be quite the cleanup. I did this in the kitchen. It is possible, but if you have a workbench or can do this outside, it's probably best. But yeah, so just like I was wondering how much was gonna be needed, if I was gonna have enough, and I comfortably used the gallon Rebound 25 to make 2. So I guess I can't say I'm happy with how they turned out because I don't know how they're gonna turn out yet. So we'll have to continue the process tomorrow by creating the hard shell, and then we'll see if we can get some good casts. But hopefully this video was helpful in terms of what the process looks like, how long it takes. Like I said, 12 hours. I used an entire day, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And yeah, so I'm excited. Everything went pretty smoothly. I'm just excited to see how that first layer turned out and if I'll be able to capture all the detail that I wanted to. So yeah, gloves are in gnarly shape. A lot of waste silicone that was just left over in the mixing cup or off the paper towels and whatnot. So yeah, the mixing cups work great. I'd usually go cup of each mixture at a time, and for the thicker layers, that was enough to comfortably cover one helmet. So doing 1 cup of each worked out pretty well. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for the next video.